Hello everyone, this is Jimmy and welcome to episode 27 of Project Ozone 3. Today, let's get our space program up and running. So we already got it started with a few machines making components. I just ran a bunch of stuff through our compressor between episodes. Basically, I filled this crate with stuff, and over the course of 20 odd hours, we now have compressed stuff. Cool. So next up, we have to, I guess, let's start with oxygen. Uh, Obviously, you need oxygen to breathe, and it doesn't come for free in space or most other planets. So we have to collect it and then store it, put it in tanks, yada, yada, yada. It's pretty easy here in the overworld because, again, there's oxygen in the air, but collecting oxygen on other planets is more difficult because you would need, trees or something to produce it. Anyways, I'm just going to craft the various components. I think, what is it? A collector and some other stuff. So this is about as simple as it comes. An oxygen collector collects oxygen from the air. Now, in Galacticraft, I'm pretty sure oxygen is treated as a liquid. So if we wanted to, instead of using these Galacticraft pipes, I'm like 95% sure we can use ender fluid conduits, if I have any. Yeah, these connect just fine as well. So it's kind of your choice what you would rather use. I mean, they're functionally, identical. And since we're doing Galacticraft, I don't know, I use the Galacticraft pipes. Now, the fact that it is a fluid and not a gas means that I'm pretty sure about this too. It is compatible with the oxygen from Mechanism. However, Mechanism oxygen is a gas, so actually, if to use it here, you'd have to turn it into a liquid. So Mechanism liquid oxygen is the same as the presumably gaseous oxygen from the oxygen collector. But anyways, that aside, oxygen storage module is just a tank. Again, instead of using this, we can use, a portable tank or whatever if we like. And lastly, an oxygen compressor fills tanks. So for now, I think the heavy tank is the largest tank we can make. So I'm just gonna, let's make a handful more of these. I don't know, maybe 10 more, and I'll just have them all fill while we do other stuff. Each heavy tank, I'm actually not sure how long each point of durability lasts for. I thought it was 1 second, but in SevTech it was way less than that. So whatever. I mean, you can't have too much oxygen, right? So when these fill pretty slowly, but when they're full, they'll dump into the output chest and we'll pick them up from there. Next thing we have to do before we can go to space is make fuel. So a refinery takes, okay, easy recipe. I think it can take any fuel. I'm not quite sure what types of fuel it takes. I hope it can take the fuel that we can buy from Amazon, and it turns it into a rocket fuel. And I think it's just a 1-block refinery. So the refinery is a pretty peculiar block. It seems to only take power in the top. And for these Galacticraft machines, this like green dot tends to indicate the powered side. And then I think it's oil in the left, fuel out the right. So let's set our delivery address to here, and let's buy ourselves a little bit of oil. We don't need that much. Let's go 256 buckets. Because contrary to what you might expect, rockets actually use very little fuel. Whatever. So anyways, in a minute, we should have our drone showing up, giving us some oil. All right, there you go. Same minute delivery. Can't wait till Amazon has this service. And it does appear like Galacticraft, or whatever this fuel is, the Pneumaticraft oil is compatible. And it just slowly turns into refined fuel. Now, it's not extracting because I didn't tell it to. Cool. So again, we only need a few buckets of this, but this refinery is pretty slow. That said, it'll just run until we process the 250 odd buckets of fuel we bought. All right, next we have two options, and let's go with the easy one first. We need a fuel loader and a launch pad. So you can put your launch pad pretty much anywhere with a clear view of the sky. I'm going to put it here because it's close to our fuel. Seems reasonable enough. It's a 3x3, and then when it forms, a middle one pops up a little bit. And your fuel loader, let's see, I think you have to place it anywhere adjacent to the launch pad, and it does need power. Whatever, I'll wire it up later. I think it's power in on that side, fuel in on this side. So that's the launch pad, that's all it takes. Next, then, is the NASA workbench. This is quite a structure. It even takes an ME controller, and it is where you actually craft your various rockets. So let's set about making one. Look at the recipe. Besides the ME controller, I actually don't think it's too terrible. Press titanium. I don't think I made any of that. But yeah, with any luck, we'll be able to auto craft one. Nice, it looks like we can. Here we go. It has to make a wafer. Okay. So the wafer machine's a little slow. This will take like 10-20 seconds. Ta-la-la. So anyways, the NASA workbench, once it's done, it'll only allow you to make a couple things right off the bat. For starters, it doesn't require power or anything, so we can just place it down wherever. Although, I don't know if you keep your recipes if you move it, so let's actually place it somewhere decent. Where do we want to put this? Just put it over here by our launch pad. The launch pad eventually grows a little bit, so make sure you leave room for it, but we'll put it here. Anyways, so you start off only being able to build just the tier 1 rocket. To build the higher tier rockets, you have to find the various schematics, and these are found in the dungeons on the various planets. So tier 1 rocket can only take you to the moon, I believe, but you gotta start somewhere, right? So I suspect the next quest will be to make the rocket itself. Let's see, I don't care for that. We'll need to make both the rocket itself and the thermal protection for the moon. So let's see what a tier 1 rocket takes. We may as well build the one that has storage space. So it's just a bunch of tier 1 heavy duty plates. Alright. I think we can pull this off. So I thought I was being clever, and I already made over 1,000 heavy duty plates in advance. This comes from my previous experience where tier 1 heavy duty plates are used to make tier 2 heavy duty plates. They're used to make tier 3 heavy duty plates, and so on and so forth. Except this pack changes it. You don't need tier 3 heavy duty plates to make tier 4 plates anymore. So I feel like I have way more tier 1 plates than I'm going to need. But anyways, I looked at these recipes. This is actually much better. Instead of having to, keep crafting up from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, yada, 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 all the way up to, I think, like 10 or 11, starting from tier 4, the plates all have their own recipes that you can make them directly. So tier 4, 5, 6, you get the picture. And this is way easier than upcrafting from all the, from tier 1 in the stupid slow compressor. So I like that. Anyways, that said, let me get a few chests, and I think we are ready to make our tier 1 rocket. I'm getting a lot more lag spikes now. Alright, as I was saying, I think we're ready to make our tier 1 rocket. And voila! So, if we take a rocket in our hand, it's a rocket! So we can just place it on our launch pad. Let's see, let's actually hook up the power and fuel lines to our fuel loader too. So now that we can fuel our rocket, I think it's already fueled. Let me hop in and check. So, yep, our rocket is fueled. So if we press spacebar now, we can take off. I wouldn't recommend it because we don't have thermal protection, we don't have oxygen gear, nor do we have a way to get back. Well, I guess we could take the rocket back, so we do have a way to get back. But let's deal with the thermal and oxygen problems first. So let's see. Thermal padding is just a bunch of wool. The good news is you also don't wear your thermal protection in your armor slots, so you can continue to wear armor. You wear them in these like padding slots, which go, underneath the armor, I guess. Over here are a couple more things we probably want. A parachute. There's some oxygen breathing gear and room to equip oxygen tanks. So let's see if our tanks have filled up. Indeed they have. Cool. So the oxygen mask takes an iron helmet, which normally is fine. However, to make an iron helmet, we're going through like 50,000 steps. I'm hoping to be able to avoid that. I have an iron helmet that I think came from like a zombie or something, but it doesn't accept it while damaged. So I'm hoping that by repairing it, it'll work. However, repairing it does give it an MBT tag. So if it is, ultra picky, it might still not work. Okay, perfect. That does work. Saves you the trouble of making the iron helmet, which is surprisingly difficult. So you need or oxygen mask, oxygen gear, and I think that lets you breathe. What is that one? I think this one is to hear sounds. See if we can find them. So that's the oxygen. All right, and then this slot, is the frequency module, which is used to pick up sound in space. I haven't found anything that looks like a mask that goes in that slot or a helmet. So we're just gonna hope that we don't need to wear anything there, and if we die, we die. The last thing we have to do is come up with a way to get back and forth from the moon and hear the overworld after we've gone there once. Technically, the rockets are reusable, and we can use them to go back and forth. But I find that they're kind of a hassle to use. They take a really long time. They consume fuel, yada yada yada, and you don't have total precision over where you land. Instead, I was thinking we can use the matter transmitter, matter receiver system from RF Tools. However, I ran into a slight roadblock in the dialing device. So the dialing device is what you use to link up to link up to link up a transmitter to a receiver. It uses these qubit crystals, which use white gem wafers, which require tier 7 planets again. So that's not going to work. Now, thinking about that a little more, though, I realized if we use the, what are they called? Portable porters? Charge porters? Something like that? These. Yeah, charge porter. Let's see. Let's craft one. I believe we can link these directly to matter receivers without needing a dialing device. And can we make the advanced version? I do believe so. So this might allow us to get around the lack of a dialing device. I mean, let's at least try it. So I set up a matter receiver here in the base. It's named main base. I could link to it, and I should be able to teleport to it, right? Perfect. So this system does work interdimensionally, although the further you are, the more energy it takes. And yeah, we'll just take advantage of the fact that we can use charge porters to go around, so we won't need a dialing device. Now that does limit us to however many targets per. This is what, 8 targets per charge porter. So if we need more than 8 different matter receivers, we'll need a second one of these, because if we ever lose the bind, then we'll never, we have to take a rocket to get back there to bind it again. Cool. So with that, I think we are ready to go to the moon. I took a look. There doesn't appear to be any spacesuit in this pack. I don't know what mod was providing the need for a spacesuit in SevTech, but yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and hope that we don't need a spacesuit. And if it turns out we do, then we might just die. Alright, before we launch, let's do our pre-launch checklist. So when you first get in the rocket, this link gets put in your chat. Go ahead and click it. You're not going to see my web browser, but let's see, I'll just read through it. So we are going to the moon. To go to the moon, we will want a parachute, which we have. Perfect. So it says we need a fuel loader and a power source for the fuel loader. When you land on the moon, you get enough fuel to launch the rocket back, and like a launch pad, but you don't get a fuel loader. Now that only really matters if you're planning on taking the rocket back. I am not. I'm planning on taking using our charge porter to get back. So I'll skip that one. A empty canister to move the fuel around. Again, we can skip that one. All right, oxygen mask, gear, and 1 filled tank. So mask, gear, and 2 filled tanks. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the rest of these tanks and put them in our AE system so that we can, access them on demand on the moon or whatever planet we find ourselves stranded on. Some food, I'll pull that out of the AE system as needed, armor and weapon, and building materials. So I guess I'm skipping like 90% of the items on the checklist because I don't think we need it. A little arrogance goes a long way, right? So anyways, let's take off. Space to launch. Let's real quick check. We have fuel. So here goes. I thought this has sounds. Maybe I accidentally muted them. Well, guess we'll never know. Anyways, the lower tier the rocket is, the longer it takes to launch. So once you get to like Y1000-ish, you end up in space. During this time, you can hit shift to leave the rocket. I advise against it. I assume you can guess why. It's cool watching your base go, out of sight. And we've made it into space. So for the time being, we can only go to the moon, I believe. Try to go to any other planet that says we need, tier 2, tier 3, etc. So let's settle for the moon. I think we could also build a space station if we have the requisite materials, but I'm not interested in building a space station this playthrough. All right, so whoopsies, moon it is. And I think you just click launch there to go. Launch. All right, and then we do a power descent on the moon with our little buggy. You can see your Y level there on the right. Make sure you slow down before you hit the ground. Otherwise, you explode. And we made it. Sweet. Somewhere behind us should come the rocket, or maybe the rocket. No, the rocket's in here. So if you want to reuse the rocket, you take it out. You take your fuel and your fuel loader. You load up your rocket again, and you're good to reuse it. I'm not interested in doing that. So now that we're here on the moon, we're looking for a couple things. First of all, we need a little. Well, first of all, let's. I guess we don't have to waypoint this place. Let's start by setting up our porter in case we die, so that we can come back. So for that, we'll need another matter receiver and some way to power it, and a trunk loader. Apparently, I don't have any trunk loaders. Oh wow, it's quite laggy. Hello? Oh, now I have 9 enchanting tables. So, matter receiver, power cell, set output mode linked. And I managed to build it all in one chunk. Am I the best or what? And then we want to bind our charge porter to it. So yep, now we can teleport here if we want. Name it, this is the moon. And voila, so we can go off, and if we want to come back for whatever reason, we can teleport back. Sweet. Now, let's go look for some resources. First thing I want to find is this a dungeon entrance? No, it isn't. I want to find some meteors. The angel ring, by the way, still works on the moon, so you can still fly, which is nice. I want to find some meteoric iron. So in the center of some of these craters, there will be tiny little meteorites that you can mine up. I think they tend to generate over time as you're on the moon, so maybe they haven't generated yet. Maybe we'll run into those later. Let's get back to that. The other thing I want is to buy from the rewards tab a creative dungeon locator. This helps you locate the dungeons on the various planets. And normally, as you might have guessed from the name, it's a creative mode only item, but thankfully it's a quest reward too that costs some rack. Based on the fact that we had just under 2,000 rack, I don't feel bad spending some on this. So this points us in the direction of the nearest dungeon. Now let's go do the dungeon first, and then we'll come back and look for meteorites on the way back. So if we just follow it along, finding dungeons without the locator is a bit of a pain. It says there's one nearby. Once you get close, it doesn't always point towards the entrance. It points towards, somewhere in the dungeon. I feel like it switched to a different dungeon. It wasn't pointing in this direction before. But if you look from overhead, the entrances are pretty easy to see. It's like a straight hole leading down. Come on, dungeon, where are you at? I think this is an entrance. No, it isn't. I lied. Dungeon locator says it's like pointing me in different directions. Am I crazy? Maybe I'm just not being patient enough. The idea should be you follow it and it leads you there, but I'm having an awfully hard time. Let me just let's just cut to where I find one. All right, here's one. The locator more or less pointed at it. It's still, it's still pointing a little bit in that direction, but the entrances all look like this: a hole straight down. And if you zoom in a bit on your mini map, I forgot what button was zoom in mini map. This one. When you zoom in a bit on your mini map, or you change your look on the mini map, it's this like rather distinctive looking hole. Cool. So just for reference, we started over here somewhere. It didn't set a waypoint. But anyways, here's the first dungeon. So I expect the mobs in here will hit pretty hard because of the broken scaling. And we also cannot use torches, I believe. Torches don't actually light things up. Oh no, they do. Okay. Oh, I think torches here work just like they do in I forget what dimension that was, Between Lands in Seth Tech, where if you place them by hand, they go out, but if they're placed by something else, they continue to work. So anyways, there are mobs here. Kill them as usual. And these dungeons tend to be, I don't know, dozen-ish rooms. With a little boss at the end. Hey, there's some meteoric iron. I just need enough of this to make the seed. Yeah, there is a meteoric iron seed. So I need 4 blocks of it. There's also moon villages, I believe, which we can go check those out after we're done with the dungeon. And here's the boss room. So less than a dozen rooms. The boss is just a thing. Oh, God, he hurts. Did he take all my hearts but 1 row in 1 hit? Oh no, that was just a heart display bug. Okay, whew. I was like, did he do 40 hearts to me in 1 hit? That's awful. Anyways, when he dies, very loudly, he drops a key. And that is what we're after. There's a chest at the end of the dungeon. And to open the chest, you have to have the key. If you don't have the key, like it's unbreakable otherwise. So you can sit here hitting it all day, but you're not going to get anywhere. So you open the chest, and you'll be disappointed when you find the moon buggy schematic. There's 2 different schematics that are available in Tier 1, and it's the moon buggy or the Tier 2 rocket. We definitely wanted the Tier 2 rocket. So we're going to have to do another dungeon, but that's not a big deal. Let's work our way out. And the easiest way to do that is just to dig straight out. Alright, so that's 1 dungeon down. I'm going to look around a little more for a second dungeon. I don't know if this thing is still pointing at the same dungeon or not, but On most planets, there's only one, potential schematic. Yeah, I think that was still pointing at the same dungeon. So let's keep going to find another one. Anyways, on most planets, there's only one potential schematic, so we don't run into this problem of finding the wrong one. But there's a couple tiers that have like a secondary schematic in the loot table as well. May as well stop at this moon village while we're here, I guess. Don't know how they have water and plants, but don't ask me. Anyways, there are like moon villagers that live in here. They trade in lunar sapphires. Remember in SevTech, they actually were willing to trade. Oh, they do it here too. So if we get a second moon buggy schematic, we can come here to the alien villagers and trade it for the buggy or the rocket schematic. Or we can just trade the one we have, right? I don't care for it. Yeah, let's see. Is there a way I can get some lunar sapphires? One jungle saplings. I can't do that. What else would you buy sapphires or sell sapphires for? Nothing. What about you? I think they also... The sapphires also spawn. Let me see if I can mine some up. Alright, another resource that's found on the moon is cheese. Because the moon is obviously made of cheese. I don't know if we do anything with it in this pack. But usually, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some random recipe that needs a couple pieces of it. Looks like it's all food though. Alright, so looks like it's all food. Whatever, may as well get it when we see it. Anyways, I know lunar sapphire ore spawns somewhere. So I'm hoping to find some. There it is. I think we're looking for this Galacticraft sapphire ore as opposed to the Project Red sapphire ore. And that gave us one. Well, I'm gonna go get... Yeah, that's a different type of sapphire. I'm gonna need, I think it was 4 pieces of this. Alright, I got my sapphires. So let's go trade that schematic again. Let's see. What is this one? Basic wafer? Not interested. Alright, so you and you. Cool, so tier 2 rocket. And that should complete the quest. Yep, alright. So let's head back and build the... Oh, no, before we head back, let's see if we can find a little meteoric iron. Because I think that's what's needed for the tier 2 rocket plates, right? Let's see, heavy duty plate tier 2 needs meteoric iron, yeah. So we can't even go to whatever the tier 2 planet is without this. So we're looking for like meteor impact sites. So I think the reason we can't find any meteoric iron yet is just because it hasn't been generated. What happens is after you arrive on the moon, meteors start hitting it, at least when the dimension or when the chunks are loaded. And then when a meteor hits it, it sounds like a creeper explosion, and it leaves behind a small meteorite chunk that you can go gather. And since we just arrived on the moon, it hasn't had time for that to happen yet. So what I'm going to do, I think, is how about I'll spend a little time just like more or less AFK here. Actually, is that one of them? That looks like a chunk of meteoric. Hey, here's our first one. Basically, these little things will generate over time. And you see, they're still hot from the impact, so they like burn you when you touch them. Anyway, so I'm going to give a little bit of time for these to generate because we need... Did I not get that? We need 4 blocks of it before we can move on. And just at the rate that I'm looking around, I've hardly found any. So yeah, I'm going to go eat some food, and while I do, I'll just AFK here. I guess I'll have to make sure to switch our air tanks every now and then. But hopefully when I get back, there'll be a little bit more meteoric iron to gather up. And we're back. It's been about a day in game. If we look at the timer, it's now day 2. And I can already see there's a meteorite. There's one. And there's one. And there's one. So yeah, a lot of spawn in the last 30 odd minutes. So we'll go around, harvest these up. I think we needed, 4 blocks? So 36 meteoric iron. And then we can head back to the overworld and make the seed. And once we have the seed, we'll have, more than we could ever use. With any luck, this meteor will provide us the last 2 pieces that we need. And we can head back. Awesome. So let's go make the seeds and the tier 2 rocket. So we can use our tier 2 rocket schematic that we traded for, unlock it, which gives us tier 2 rockets. And it's basically the same as a tier 1 rocket, except it uses the tier 2 heavy duty plates. And I forgot chests again. Alright, so let's build our tier 2 rocket. That's a tier 1 rocket. There we go. Likewise, place it down. We need a launch pad. And I believe this can take us to Venus, where we can get the tier 3 material, which I believe is Dash. So let's load her up. We can see fuel being loaded, and once it's full, we can take off. And we're ready. Here we go. So basically all the... Ooh, I should have checked something before. Can I abort still? The spacebar doesn't abort. Well, I hope our thermal padding is sufficient for tier 2. Let's see, tier thermal padding. I'm not sure. It doesn't say. Well, I guess we'll find out when we get there. So it looks like Venus is a tier 3 planet and Mars is tier 2. Let's go to Mars first. And the things we do on the surface. It's like we land under a parachute here, so we don't have to propulsively land. Cool looking terrain. I'm not actually sure if I can control my bouncing. Alright, so once we come to a stop, we should be able to get out. And I think we can find a rocket and launch pad in here. Once again, if we wanted to, we could take this back. But I don't care for it. So, now that we're here, I'll set up all the things as before. Alright, and like before, I'm going to set out and try to find a dungeon. With our handy dungeon locator, that should only take a minute. It's like we're coming up on the entrance. And basically the dungeons on all the planets are more or less the exact same. So there's, nothing new to be seen here. I'm just gonna go to the end. So here's the boss room. This boss is a little different. I think you fight him like the Hydra boss. He just bounces stuff back at him. And I think if his bombs hit like the corners of the room, they spawn, or they hit these eggs, they spawn mobs. But besides that, yeah, it's a pretty uneventful boss. And I just sit here holding down right click. Well, some way, somehow, it looks like we're about to pull it off. Good news is, I think on Mars there's only one schematic that we can get, so we can't get the wrong schematic. He hasn't dropped the key yet. Jeez, that's loud. Wait, did he not drop the key? Did the key get blown up? That would make me unhappy. Let's see, is there a key here somewhere? Oh, there it is, okay. Phew. So, what's in the box? Oh, wrong one. So apparently we can get the wrong one in here. I guess I'm gonna either look for, I don't think there are villages here to trade with, so the only option is to find another dungeon. On my way out of the dungeon, which you can see it's right there, I wanted to take a quick break and grab some of this Desh ore as well. So Desh is the resource on Mars, and I think when you mine it, you get this unrefined Desh, which cooks into Desh ingots, and there, I believe, is a Desh seed. Let me check. I think I marked it. Yeah. So Desh seeds take 8 blocks. So I need 72 Desh, unrefined Desh, and then we can, not worry about that. Unfortunately, I think once we're past this tier, the future planets don't have, their resources don't have a mystical agriculture version, which means we're going to have to, come up with some way to dig them out of the ground or pull them out of whatever planet they spawn on. Another dungeon, another opportunity. And another creeper boss. Found it easier to spam left click than right click. Cover your ears. Alright, where's the key? Come on, I know you're here somewhere. Alright, let me find it. Alright, for some reason it appears like you didn't drop one. I checked, I didn't accidentally put it in my E system, it's not in my inventory, so I'm going to cheat one because that is definitely a bug. So now I have a tier 2 dungeon key. And I hate this game. 2 of these. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, there's no way to trade it, so oh well, I guess I have to go find another dungeon. Well, that's awkward. That's the key. Just so you know I'm not cheating, I'm deleting the key I picked up off the ground. Whoops. Third one's gotta have it, right? I hope. Third time's a charm, they say. I hate this game. Now, we can't possibly get the wrong schematic 4 times in a row, can we? See you in the next episode.